What I'd like to do today is to bring out some of the highlights of the study that I worked on with a co-author, Jim Edwards, who is here today also, on the 287G program. I want to just talk about some of our findings. I'm going to go through the different types of 287G programs, what some of the opposition to the program, some of the criticisms of it have been, and where the program seems to be going, and also where we think it should be going. And just to follow up on what my colleague Steve has said, while we're not sure about whether immigrant crime rates are high or low, one thing that we did find in our study of the incarcerated alien population is that immigrant crime certainly is not trivial or insignificant, especially in certain communities around the country. And so, and what we've found that it's always important to place numbers in context if you're looking at something like an overall immigrant crime rate. But for a local law enforcement agency or for people living in a community, those numbers are important regardless of their demographic context. For example, we found that the Harris County jail system, which includes Houston, Texas, their 287G program is identifying at least 1,000 removable aliens every month who've been arrested for other crimes, who are removable aliens. And the same has been true in Los Angeles County, San Bernardino County, and even in some communities that you might not expect, like Davidson County, Tennessee, and some places in North Carolina and Georgia, where the absolute numbers are extremely meaningful for a local law enforcement agency because they do have an impact on crime rates in the community and on the overall quality of life in a community, and most importantly, on the people who live in these communities, because there are people who are the victims of these crimes. So the 287G program is one response that was created by Congress to help overcome the basic fact that the immigration agency, Immigration Law Enforcement Agency, then INS, now ICE, simply cannot do the job all by itself of identifying removable aliens who are committing crimes all across the country. The reality is that ICE is concentrated in major cities around the country, but immigration is not confined to major cities around the country. So this is one program that has been particularly effective in helping local communities deal with the problems of crime associated with illegal immigration. It's basically a do-it-yourself immigration law enforcement program where local officers receive training and authority to investigate and charge illegal aliens or removable aliens that they encounter over the regular course of performing their public safety duties. And the purpose is to remove people who are a danger to the community in one way or another, or have an effect on the well-being of that community. It was always intended to be used mainly to remove aliens who had committed more serious offenses, but it was never intended to be limited to that. The whole point of it is to give local agencies the tools to address problems that they identify in their own community. And it's been very successful, both in terms of results in identifying removable aliens, and also it's very cost effective, as it turns out, as well. And we have a discussion of that in the report. Right now, there are 73 agencies who have either already completed agreements or are about to. More than 1,000 officers trained nationwide, both state agencies, local, county, all kinds of different options for it. Since the program's inception, more than 140,000 removable aliens who committed other crimes have been identified. It represents about a fifth of the criminal aliens that ICE is able to identify in a year. So that is an enormous force multiplier for ICE as an agency, and it's very helpful to these communities that have stepped up to participate in this. There are three main models that we identify. The first is a correctional model. That's what most of the 287G programs today are, and the ones producing the most arrests, I should say. It's not, most of them are not just correctional. And that's a natural place for an agency to do this. Typically what happens is the jails or prisons that participate in this screen all of their inmates at the time of booking to determine whether they were born in the United States or not, and then go on further to determine what their immigration status is and if they're potentially subject to immigration charges. It's the easiest type of 287G program to implement, and it produces 90% of the arrests that take place under the program. It's what LA County, Orange County, San Bernardino, all the big programs are doing correctional models. The impact is huge in these places, and it's very hard to argue that there is not going to be a positive impact on public safety when you are removing, whether it's 1,000 from the big jurisdictions or 500 from some of the smaller ones, removable aliens every month. It has an effect on the level of crime in the community, on it helps lower criminal justice costs, and it prevents future crimes from happening because offenders are sent home rather than released back into the community. In Davidson County, which is one of the jurisdictions that has studied the results of its program very closely, they found that after using 287G, 46% fewer illegal aliens were being arrested after doing this for about a year, and a decrease of about 30% in the number of foreign-born folks who were arrested in Davidson County as a result of identifying immigration offenders in the criminal justice system and sending them home. Even in smaller jurisdictions have been able to implement it as well. We look at Whitfield County in Georgia, and they have actually been able to quantify the cost savings as a result of having done this. Implementing the program didn't cost them anything. They're doing it with existing staff, but they went through and looked at their inmate population and the number of recidivists, and found that some of the people that they were able to get removed had been offending dozens of times, even in a year, and actually calculated that removing one of these recidivists, taking just a few hours of work from one of the trained officers' time, was able to save county taxpayers $20,000 over that offender's lifetime in just correctional costs. For just, as I said, a couple hours work on their part, and sparing future victims of crime as well, which of course you obviously can't quantify.